I need to write this down. Maybe someone will believe me. Maybe someone will understand that I'm not just falling apart, that something real is happening to me, even if reality itself is the thing breaking. Since last night, since the fire and the ashes, I haven't been able to tell where I am. Whispering Pines Motel doesn't feel separate anymore. The cracked carpet beneath my shoes is also the faded rug from my old apartment. The neon hum outside my window becomes, when I blink, the soft lamp I once used to read by. The air smells of dust and mold, but also faintly of old coffee and the cheap detergent I used on my clothes years ago. Everything is fused together into one shifting picture frame, and I am trapped in the middle of it. Pixel is the cruelest part of this fusion. My cat, my anchor, the only reason I've endured so far, she appears in both places. On the motel bedspread, pawing lazily, tail curled in a perfect question mark. On the kitchen counter, licking an empty bowl that should not even exist anymore. She blinks at me from both worlds, eyes glinting yellow in one, green in the other. Which version is real? Or worse? What if both are? I don't know whether I'm moving between realities or if they are folding in on me, strangling until I can't breathe. And the whispers. They haven't stopped. At first they were like breath against plaster, faint murmurs through the motel walls. Now they crawl inside my skull. "You're remembering," they chant. Soft at first, then firmer, as if correcting me, as if dragging me toward a truth I never asked for. I don't know what they mean. I don't want to know. But every time I press my palms against my temples, trying to hold myself together, the cracks widen. Images break through. Blinding white lights, needles sliding into skin, a clipboard marked with my initials, MB, written in a hand I almost recognize. A hallway lined with doors, one door marked 237, and the mirror, always the mirror, dripping with foggy letters. Remember Michael. At exactly 11:15 tonight, the same cursed time I was once told to switch off the neon sign, everything fractured again. I reach for the switch, but it existed in two places at once, on the motel wall and in my apartment plaster. My hand shook violently, the weight of two worlds resting on one trembling decision. I flicked it anyway. For a breathless moment the world went black, and when light returned, I was standing in both rooms simultaneously, my feet on motel carpet, my hands braced on the chipped edge of my old coffee table. The sensation hit me like falling into an endless pit. Pixel's meow came next, but it wasn't one meow. It was layered, fractured, spilling from two corners of reality. I saw her bodies split before my eyes. The motel Pixel blinked with soft yellow eyes. The apartment Pixel blinked with sharp green ones. They moved together in eerie synchronization, but only one purred. The other opened her mouth and, instead of sound, the whisper poured out. "You're remembering." I collapsed. My knees struck something hard. But was it tile or carpet? Pain jolted through me, multiplied, as if my body were being punished in two places at once. My vision blurred. Crawling desperately, I forced open the bathroom door, expecting cracked motel tiles. Instead, I stumbled into the hallway of my apartment, the one I swore I left weeks ago. And at the end of that hallway waited the mirror. My stomach knew it before my mind did. The mirror had been waiting for me all along. The glass rippled when I touched it, like the surface of dark water. My reflection stared back, but it wasn't mine. It was older, hollow-eyed, skin pale as though drained of something essential. He looked at me with recognition, pity, and hunger all at once. He pressed his hand against the inside of the glass, palm flat to mine, and his lips moved, though I couldn't hear the words. Then letters began to bloom across the foggy surface. Subject MB resists memory suppression. The phrase made my stomach twist. It felt like a diagnosis, like a sentence carved into my soul. I shook my head, muttering, No, I didn't agree to this. I never asked for this." But my reflection smirked, a cruel curve stretching too wide, mocking my denial. His smile was mine, but not mine, distorted, predatory. He mouthed something again. This time I could almost hear it. "You already did." My pulse spiked. I stumbled backward, bile rising, throat burning as if my own body wanted to reject me. Pixel brushed against my ankle then, grounding me, her fur warm and soft. Relief surged through me until I looked down and saw nothing there. The touch was gone, replaced by the whisper, now erupting from inside my bones. You're remembering. You're remembering. You're remembering. Each word echoed, overlapping, suffocating, louder than my heartbeat. I clutched my ears, screamed for it to stop, but my own voice shattered, splitting into multiple echoes like even sound itself couldn't decide which world to belong to. Now I sit here at the desk, or maybe the kitchen counter, scribbling with a pen that bleeds too much ink, my hand shaking so hard the letters blur. I don't know if this paper is real. I don't know if any of it is real. But I have to write. Writing is the only thing left tethering me, the only way to tell myself I still exist. If this is what remembering feels like, then remembering is worse than forgetting. Yet some part of me, the part the whispers belong to, knows I don't have a choice anymore. I used to think the rules were my anchor. They were absurd, terrifying, but clear. A map through the night. Survive by obeying, endure by not asking questions. They gave me something to cling to when the walls whispered and the mirrors breathed. Tonight, that anchor turned to lead. When I pulled open the desk drawer, expecting the familiar yellowed sheet, my breath froze. There was paper, yes, but not the same. The old list was gone, erased like it had never existed. In its place lay a page that seemed to sweat ink, the letters jagged, impatient, etched into the fibers as if by a hand that trembled with fury. The smell hit me first, metallic, like burned wires. The air felt heavier just holding it. I smoothed the page with my fingers. The texture was wrong, coarse, brittle, as though it had been dragged through fire before reaching me. The first line burned itself into my mind. Where once it said, "Turn off the neon sign at 11:15, it now commanded, "Leave the neon burning until instructed." My throat went dry. My heart tried to reject it, insisting the old words were still there, that I was misreading. But the paper mocked me. The second line confirmed it. The old warning, "Do not count the gates aloud," was replaced with, "Count when the voices demand it." The changes weren't subtle. They were deliberate reversals, cruel inversions, a trap disguised as law. I sat there staring, the page blurring and shifting as if mocking my memory. I recited the old rules in my head, one by one, desperate to preserve them before they slipped away. I could almost hear the man in the black suit from my fractured memories, standing above me in the white room with needles and lights, reading instructions in that measured, clinical tone. Were those rules the originals? Or had I been given false commandments from the start, just another layer of control? My pulse thudded in my ears. If both lists came from the same place, then neither was meant to protect me. They were programming, and I was the machine they were trying to keep running. Pixel jumped onto the desk without a sound. Her paws pressed against the paper as though she wanted to claim it. Her eyes caught the dim glow of the motel bulb, one moment pale yellow, the next sharp green, the same shifting hue I'd seen when she appeared in two places at once. She pawed at the lower half of the page, claws catching the paper until my eyes locked on a particular line. Rule 7. My stomach twisted as I read, "If you see yourself, do not confront. Follow instead." My breath stuttered. The memory of my reflection's cruel smile in the bathroom mirror clawed its way back into my mind, vivid as if it had happened seconds ago. He was waiting. He wanted me to follow. And now the rules agreed. The whispers thickened, weaving through my skull like vines tightening around bone. You're remembering. You're correcting. You're obeying. Their voices rose in unison, a chorus that didn't echo from walls but from marrow. My body shook as another vision tore through me. A metal table beneath my back, straps biting my wrists, the ceiling flooded with surgical lights. A clipboard hovered above, the initials MB scrawled in black ink. Someone spoke, not a whisper, not a scream, but a voice of authority, repeating the rules one by one as if reciting a prayer. I remembered resisting, turning my face away, but every time I defied them, the voice grew louder, pressing the words into me like brands. When I opened my eyes again, the page had changed. I swear I watched it happen. Fresh ink bled into the paper, strokes appearing one by one as if an invisible hand was scrawling before me. Do not hide from what you've done. The letters pulsed once like a heartbeat, then steadied, glistening wet. My breath snagged in my chest. I whispered, "What did I do?" My own voice sounded like a stranger's. Pixel hissed suddenly, back arched, fur standing sharp as needles. Her gaze fixed on the mirror across the room, and I knew without looking that he was there, the reflection that wasn't mine. The room darkened. The bulb flickered as if choking on its own light. The paper fluttered though no wind stirred. The whispers roared now, no longer a chant but a command. Do not destroy. Do not resist. Read. My hand clenched around the edges of the page until my knuckles turned white. For an instant, I considered ripping it in half, defying whatever force was writing these chains around me. But as soon as the thought entered my mind, agony ripped through me, invisible current coursing from skull to spine. I gasped, dropping the page, every nerve screaming at once. The pain didn't stop until I picked it up again. Tears blurred my vision. The ink shimmered as though alive, shifting when I blinked, rewriting itself to keep me off balance. Old rules, new rules, personal accusations. There was no end, only the tightening of a noose I couldn't see. I realized then that the rules had never been meant to guide me. They were shackles disguised as lifelines, and every night I obeyed, I wrapped them tighter around my own throat. Now the rewritten page lies before me, glowing faintly in the dark, as if lit from within. Pixel sits in the corner, tail wrapped around her paws, watching me with eyes too knowing to belong to a cat. I can't trust the rules anymore, yet I can't tear them apart. They change when I'm not looking, binding me whether I resist or obey. I thought they were my survival. Now I know they are my cage, and the cage is closing. I never believed in gates until I saw them with my own eyes, not the kind made of wood or iron, but doors of air and light stacked over each other like layers of glass. It happened not long after I read the rewritten rules. The page lay in my lap, still wet with ink, when the air in the motel room thickened. A low hum shook the walls, deeper than thunder, steady as a heartbeat. The lamp flickered, and shadows stretched unnaturally across the floor. My head swam. For a second, I thought I would black out, but then the space around me cracked open. The first gate was faint, a shimmer in the air by the window, a ripple of light bending like heat haze. Then another appeared, overlapping it, but darker, lined with shifting symbols I couldn't read. The more I stared, the more there were. 7 in total, layered one atop another like reflections in an infinite mirror. Each gate pulsed, breathing, as though alive. Their colors bled into each other, blue, silver, crimson, black, colliding into a storm that sucked the oxygen from the room. I couldn't move. My body locked in place, as if my bones recognized something older than me, something I was never meant to see. Pixel leapt from the desk to the floor, her small body tensed, tail stiff. She didn't look at me. She looked straight at the 7th gate, the deepest one. It glowed faintly gold, but not the kind of gold that warms. It was pale, sickly, the color of dying fire. From its center came the whisper. Not just one this time, but hundreds layered into a single voice. And they weren't chanting the same phrase anymore. They called my name. Not Michael, not Brennan. They called me Subject MB. I wanted to scream that I wasn't a subject, that I was a man, a person, not some experiment. But the words died in my throat. The gates had a weight, pressing down on my chest until every breath burned. The closer I looked, the more I realized each gate wasn't empty. There were shapes inside them, figures half seen, bodies shifting, faces pressed against invisible walls. They clawed silently, their mouths open in screams I couldn't hear. My stomach flipped, bile rushing up my throat. These weren't doors, they were cages. The seventh gate pulsed harder, and the whisper grew sharp. Count. The word slid into my head like a blade. I remembered the new rule count when the voices demanded. My hands trembled. I didn't want to obey. I didn't want to lend strength to whatever was behind that final door. But the command repeated, louder, until it felt like my skull would split. Count, count, count. Against my will, my lips parted. 1, the first gate flickered. 2, the second gate darkened. With each number, a cold rush flooded my veins like something feeding on my voice. By the time I reached 6, tears streamed down my face. My throat was raw, my chest heaving. The seventh gate loomed, pulsing violently now, golden light bleeding into the room, staining the walls. Pixel yowled, a sound I had never heard from her before, raw and furious. Her body arched, fur bristling, eyes glowing as if lit from within. The voices demanded the last number, hammering it into my skull. I clenched my teeth, refusing, shaking. But my tongue betrayed me. 7. The seventh gate flared open, not wide, not fully, but enough to let the air bleed through. The motel dissolved around me. I stood on the threshold of a vast corridor lined with doors that went on forever, spiraling upward and downward, as though I was inside a spine made of steel and glass. At the far end, something moved. A shadow taller than any human, limbs bending at wrong angles, its head bowed as if chained. When it lifted its face, I saw nothing but a blur of features rearranging, shifting between strangers, then between my own. I staggered back, crashing into the motel bed, the vision folding in on itself. The gates shuddered, their light dimming, their whispers collapsing into silence. For a heartbeat, everything was gone. Just me, the desk, and the tattered carpet. But the seventh gate left its mark. A faint golden outline burned into the wall, smoking like fresh ash. Pixel crouched low, ears flattened, her gaze still fixed on the shimmer where the seventh gate had been. She hissed once, sharp and guttural, then turned those impossible eyes on me. For the first time, I couldn't tell if she was warning me or blaming me. Now I sit here with the new rules in one hand and the memory of the seventh gate seared into my skull. My lips still ache from speaking the numbers I never meant to. My body feels hollow, drained, like something fed on me through every syllable. The rules told me to count, and I obeyed. I don't know what I've unleashed, but I know it isn't done with me. The glow of the seventh gate hadn't faded when I realized I was no longer alone. At first, I thought it was just the afterimage of golden light seared into my eyes, but then the air thickened with the smell of smoke and ash. It wasn't the faint odor of a blown fuse or a dying bulb. It was heavy, metallic, as if a fire had burned inside this room long before I ever arrived. That was when I heard them. Footsteps, not mine. Too slow, too steady, too deliberate. They echoed against the walls, and yet the sound seemed to come from nowhere at all. My head snapped toward the mirror. For nights I had dreaded its reflection, the hollow-eyed version of me that smiled too wide, too wrong. I expected him to leer back from inside the glass, but instead the surface rippled like water disturbed by a hand, and then he stepped through. My breath caught. It wasn't a flicker of shadow or a hallucination born of exhaustion. It was me, stepping out of the mirror as if it were just a doorway. He looked like me in every detail, the same stubble on my jaw, the same lines under my eyes, the same clothes creased with the same exhaustion. But there was something sharper about him, something that felt more solid. I felt like smoke beside him, thin and fragile. His smile was calm, patient, almost rehearsed, as though he had been waiting for this moment since the beginning. "You're not real," I whispered. My voice cracked like brittle glass. He tilted his head, studying me with eyes that didn't blink. Then he said the words I had been terrified to hear. "No, Michael. I'm the only one who is." The room tilted. My knees weakened. I stumbled backward until I hit the desk, knocking the rewritten rules to the floor. The page fluttered down like a dead moth. He didn't even glance at it. His eyes never left mine. He moved closer, each step carrying a weight I couldn't explain. It wasn't just my twin standing before me. It was authority, certainty, the embodiment of everything I feared was true. "You're the echo," he said softly, almost kindly. "The experiment, the false one. I'm the original. You've been living my life like a thief wearing my skin." I wanted to deny it, to scream that he was lying, but the conviction in his voice sank into me like hooks. He wasn't trying to convince me, he believed it. And something deep inside me, something buried under nights of confusion and broken memory, stirred with dangerous recognition. What if he was right? What if all the whispers, all the rules, all the gates had been nothing but attempts to keep me from realizing the truth, that I was never real to begin with? A sharp hiss tore through the silence. "Pixel." Relief rushed over me as I turned, desperate for her small body to ground me. She had always been my anchor, the one thing that made me feel human. But my relief shattered in an instant. She wasn't running to me. She was padding toward him. My double crouched smoothly, and Pixel brushed her body against his leg, curling her tail like she had always belonged there. When he stroked her head, she purred, loud, deep, the kind of sound she had stopped making for me days ago. My chest constricted. "No," I rasped. "Pixel, no." My voice broke. But she didn't even look at me. She had chosen. The betrayal hollowed me out. My cat, my companion, my last tether to sanity, now curled in the lap of the man who claimed to be the real me. My double stroked her once more, then lifted his gaze. "She knows the truth," he said simply. "She always did." His words cut deeper than any knife. He extended a hand to me, not threatening, not violent, but offering. "Come with me. Stop resisting. Stop pretending you're something you're not. The rules, they were never for me. They were written for you. They kept you contained, kept you from remembering. And now you've broken them. You counted. You opened the gate. There's no difference between us anymore, unless you keep clinging to your illusion." The air pressed down on me like a weight. The motel walls seemed to bend inward, shadows crawling closer, as if the room itself wanted me to accept what he said. My mind replayed the whispers. "You're remembering. You're obeying. You're resisting." Every phrase felt poisoned now, every memory warped. I saw flashes of room 237, of the clipboard with my initials, of a voice reading rules like prayers while I lay strapped to a table. What if those weren't memories of me? What if they belonged to him, the original, and I was just the shadow left behind? I wanted to scream, to deny him, to rip the room apart until it bled answers. But my body betrayed me. My legs trembled, too weak to hold me upright. My arms felt hollow, my lungs burned. My throat caught on air like it had forgotten how to breathe. He stood there strong, composed, inevitable, and I felt like I was fading, becoming less real with every second he remained. Pixel purred louder, her glowing eyes lifting to mine for the briefest moment, and in that look I felt not love, not recognition, but accusation. As though she were silently telling me I was the intruder here. My chest cracked open with grief. Now I sit here at the desk, if it even is a desk, if it even exists, scratching these words onto paper that might vanish when I blink. Across the room, he waits, calm, patient, smiling faintly, Pixel curled beside him as though she had never been mine at all. He doesn't lunge, doesn't attack. He doesn't need to. He just waits because time is his ally, not mine. I hear his words echoing in my skull even when he's silent. You're the echo. You're the experiment. You're the lie. And I don't know how much longer I can keep denying it. "When the fire comes," he said, "only one of us will remain. I don't know if that will be him or me." He said the fire would come, and now it has. I smell it before I see it, an acrid stench crawling up my throat, the kind of heat that doesn't burn skin yet but promises to. The motel walls ripple like paper pressed against a flame. Shadows bleed across the ceiling, moving like smoke with no fire to cast them. My double doesn't move. He stays seated, calm, one hand resting on Pixel as she purrs in his lap. He doesn't have to do anything. The fire's already inside the room, inside me. The page of rules lies on the floor where I dropped it earlier. The edges curl, blackening, even though no spark has touched them. Words smear into shapes that breathe, twisting and writhing, until new letters emerge across the page. Burn what you love, or be consumed by it. My hand trembles as I reach for it, though I don't want to. The message pulses, glowing faintly red, as though written in fresh blood. My heart pounds so hard it hurts. My mind screams for a third option, some hidden loophole. But there isn't one. Pixel shifts in his lap, stretching her body lazily, her tail brushing across his knee. She looks at me once, just once, and in her eyes I see a question I can't answer. I remember every night she curled against me, the weight of her small body grounding me when nothing else could. She was the reason I kept breathing, the reason I didn't run from this nightmare when I still had the chance. And now the rules tell me to burn her, to set my last tether ablaze. My double leans forward, his smile almost sympathetic. You already know which choice they want, he says. His voice is calm, but beneath it I hear the echo of fire cracking. The rules were never asking, they were telling. Either way, something burns. He gestures at the floor, at the page, at Pixel. You decide if it's her or you. His hand strokes her fur again, and she presses against him as though she belongs to him entirely. The air grows hotter. Sweat beads down my spine. The walls darken with stains that drip like molten tar. My throat feels raw, scorched with every breath. I grab the page, though it burns against my palm. The words shift again, twisting cruelly. The cat or the book? The anchor or the chain? I squeeze my eyes shut, shaking. I want to throw it into the fire and be done with it, but it clings to me like it has weight beyond paper. My pulse hammers against my skull. Pixel meows. Not the soft sound I remember, but low, guttural, like something between a growl and a cry. My double smile widens. She's chosen already, he says. She knows who you are. She knows what you are. If you spare her, you betray yourself. If you burn her, you betray what's left of your humanity. Either way, you lose. I stagger to the bed, clutching the page so tightly my knuckles whiten. The mattress feels warm beneath me, as though fire smolders inside the springs. I picture myself striking a match, holding Pixel down, watching her fur ignite. The image makes me gag. But then I picture burning the rules, and the whispers surge, instantly, louder, violent, tearing at my skull. Do not destroy. Do not resist. Do not resist. The pain is unbearable. My vision swims. If I burn the book, I burn myself. If I burn Pixel, I burn my soul. The room tilts. I collapse to my knees. My double rises slowly, his silhouette sharp against the glow of flames that still don't exist but feel inevitable. He speaks gently, like a man consoling a child. One must burn. You know it. He holds out his hand again, the same hand he offered before, only now it's marked with soot, as if he's already held the fire. Pixel jumps down from his lap and pads toward me. She stops inches away, staring up at me with glowing eyes that seem to pierce through everything I am. She doesn't run, she doesn't hide, she just waits, waiting for me to decide whether I will save her or sacrifice her. My breath shudders, my fingers cramp around the paper, the words blur, dripping into shapes I can't read anymore. Fire licks at the edges, invisible but searing, demanding. My chest tightens with grief, rage, despair. The whispers thunder louder than ever. My double looms closer, silent now, because he doesn't need to speak. The choice is mine, and yet not mine at all. Now I write with hands that tremble too much to hold steady. I don't know which burns first, the cat or the book. I only know that the flames are here, and they are hungry. If these words survive me, then maybe someone will understand. The rules are not choices. They are weapons. And tonight, I am the target. The fire came without warning. I don't remember lighting anything. Don't remember deciding which to sacrifice. One moment my hands were trembling around the paper. The next, the room blazed in orange glow. Heat folded over me in a suffocating wave. My lungs seized, my eyes streamed. Something burned. but I couldn't tell what, fur or paper. My memory of that instant is carved out, a blank slice where truth should be. All I know is the air filled with smoke, and the motel no longer smelled like mildew and dust. It smelled like charred bone. Ash fell to the floor in spirals. I staggered toward it, coughing, clutching the desk for balance. The fragments writhed instead of settling. Black curls of carbon slithered across the carpet, sketching themselves into letters that glowed faint red. I dropped to my knees, hypnotized. Remember Michael. The words pulsed once, faint heat radiating from them. I whispered the phrase aloud, my throat raw, and hearing it in my own voice made my skin crawl. The ash shifted again, almost as if it was breathing. Behind me, my double stood untouched. The smoke curled around him but never clung, as though the fire itself refused to acknowledge him. He wasn't coughing. He wasn't even sweating. He simply watched, one hand resting casually against his thigh, the other hanging loose, like this was all according to plan. Pixel was gone. I don't know if she ran, if the flames took her, or if she had never been here at all. The silence she left behind tore me open. For a second, I saw her face in the ash itself, eyes wide, mouth open, but when I blinked, it collapsed into dust. My double finally spoke, voice low, calm, almost paternal. You see, it was never your choice. It was theirs. The words sank into me heavier than the smoke. My chest tightened as I stared at the smoldering letters. Remember Michael. But remember what? My lungs strained for air. Each breath tasted of iron. I wanted to scream her name, to call for Pixel, but the smoke stole my voice. The phone rang, shrill, violent, a sound so sharp it cut through fire. I flinched, stumbling toward it, each step dragging like I was wading through tar. I lifted the receiver with a trembling hand. Static screamed in my ear, then steadied into a voice, cold, flat, mechanical. Subject MB has breached containment. My blood froze. The voice repeated, slower this time, deliberate. Subject MB has breached containment. It wasn't alarmed. It was reporting, announcing. I dropped the phone. It swung on its cord, knocking against the wall, spilling more static like an infection. My ears rang with those words. Breached containment. My body felt hollow. Did it mean I escaped something? Or that something escaped me? The ash on the floor shifted again, scattering and then reforming into fresh words. You can't hide. The letters glowed hotter, smoking as if carved into the very fabric of the motel carpet. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, moving in unison. Not one, not two, but many. Boots striking the hallway floor outside in slow cadence. The sound reverberated through my ribs, closer, always closer. My pulse raced, my breath ragged. The doorknob rattled once, twice, then stilled. My body froze against the wall. The silence that followed was worse than the noise, thick and hungry. Pixel's cry shattered it, a sharp, mournful yowl, muffled, echoing as though from behind the door or from deep inside my head. The sound tore through me, splitting my chest with grief. She was alive. She had to be. But the cry carried pain, accusation, something broken. My knees gave out. I pressed my palms to the filthy carpet, begging for her, begging for clarity. The footsteps outside stopped. The air vibrated as though the hallway itself was holding its breath. The ash scattered again, whipping upward into the air, stinging my skin. My double stepped closer, his silhouette sharp against the fading glow. He crouched near me, his eyes steady, his voice a whisper against the roar of silence. They won't even see you when they come, he said. They'll see me. They'll know who's real. And you. He smiled, a thin, merciless line. You'll vanish like smoke. I wanted to lunge at him, to claw his throat, to demand my life back. But my limbs wouldn't move. My body trembled, every muscle seized. His words settled into me, cold as iron. What if he was right? What if the fire had already burned me away, and what remained was nothing but the echo? My chest heaved with sobs I couldn't release. The doorknob turned again. Slow this time, metal grinding under pressure, as if the air itself was forcing it. Light bled through the crack beneath the door. Not white, not warm, but red. Deep, pulsing, unnatural, as if blood itself glowed on the other side. My double straightened, calm, almost welcoming. His voice was steady, final. When they open that door, Michael, only one of us will remain. Now I sit here, choking on smoke, writing words that may never outlast me. The phone still hisses on the wall. The ash still burns faint letters into the floor. The boots outside shift again, preparing. My double stands, Pixel's absence screaming louder than her presence ever did. I don't know if the fire devoured her or if she waits behind that door, crying for me. I only know the handle is turning and the light spilling in is not from this world. And whatever steps through will decide if I was ever real at all.